Joe Rogan had Steven Crowder on his podcast and was able to successfully lure him into a heated argument.
Just because someone gets in an accident and they're high. Hold on, stop.
No, hold on a second. This is
you
because you just
interrupt
want-
way too much. You need to stop.
What were the tactics that Rogan used to fly under Steven's radar to get him into an argument Steven didn't even realize he was in until it was too late?
If you go, God damn it, maybe I went too far down this road. If I could just relax one aspect of my dialogue, what would it be? Me, it would be my pipe smoking.
Your pipe smoking?
Joe asked Steven what he regrets having a stance on. That if he could go back, what would he not want to publicly talk about? A seemingly innocent question. However, Joe is not asking, what do you not want to talk about right now? He is asking, what have you talked about publicly that you wouldn't do over if given the chance? Joe says that for him, it would be his pipe smoking. When we ask questions that require vulnerability from our counterpart, it puts our counterpart at ease when we answer the vulnerable question ourselves before letting them answer it. So instead of Steven having to answer a vulnerable question, him and Joe are now trading vulnerabilities, making it less intimidating for Steven, therefore making him more likely to be truthful. The thing that's weird here is that the vulnerability that Joe offers up is not nearly as emotionally deep as the vulnerability he is requesting from Steven. Joe wants Steven to share the topic that he regrets most having a public stance on, and in return, Joe tells him that he regrets smoking pipes? An uneven trade like this subconsciously hints at the level of respect that Rogan has for Crowder, and we will see more signs of this moving forward.
Smoking.
Your pipe smoking? I probably wouldn't talk about the marijuana issue. I wouldn't care. Because here's the thing, I don't care about it. I
One
really
way
don't.
or the other?
Crowder says he would take back talking about the marijuana issue because he really just doesn't care about it. This is good so far. He is not fighting for the position. He would just take it back because he doesn't care about the issue. But Joe Rogan pries for more info, saying one way or the other?
I don't care about it. I
One
really
way
don't.
or the other?
But my issue with it is when, and we saw this in Montreal, I talked about it when people lie about it and they're dishonest with their voting constituency.
Like how so?
Even though Crowder said that he doesn't care about it up until now, after Joe pries him for more info, Steven takes his position against marijuana. Once Crowder offers up his position and sticks his stake in the ground, Joe Rogan views this as a justification for debate. If Crowder said, I just don't care, instead of providing his position, Joe Rogan would not be as justified in pursuing this argument as he is right now. Remember, in the beginning, Joe asked Crowder, what topic have you talked about publicly that you wouldn't do over if given the chance? He didn't ask him, what topic do you not want to talk about right now? Given his justification to enter the argument now, Joe enters debate mode when he says, like how so?
And they're dishonest with their voting constituency.
Like how so?
This was the last chance for Crowder to say, I just don't care about it. But by continuing, he has not only been pulled into this argument, he has chosen to be a part of it. With these lures, like one way or the other, and in what way? Joe Rogan is looking to get Crowder to put a stake in the ground, because once Crowder makes his position, Joe is now justified in arguing against that position.
Well, saying, it's medicine for A, B, C, or D. It may be medicine for A, but not for B, C, or D.
Well, what are the B, C's, and D's?
Well,
what are the things that's not medicine
an example.
for?
Well, you're asking me what I wouldn't talk about, and
Right.
you're asking me to defend it.
No,
My
but
point is, I don't really care about it.
But what are the B, C's, and D? What you said
It cures
specific.
cancer.
Well, there
one.
has been shown.
It helps with cancer about as much as...
We now see Crowder try to pull back after Joe has entered argument mode. But the thing is that it's too late. Crowder had chances to pull out, but instead he stuck his stake in the ground and made arguments for his position. Joe subconsciously offered him a way out when he said one way or the other.
About it. I
one
really
way
don't.
or the other?
And like how so?
Like how so?
Whether Steven didn't realize the opportunity he had to abort or he willingly chose to participate, it's too late now. He has already entered into the debate. The opportunities that Joe offers to avoid the argument are very subtle, and it may take a proactive and experienced interviewee to navigate a situation like this. Given the age of this clip, Steven could have found himself in this position because he was an inexperienced interviewee and didn't understand in the moment the opportunities he had to avoid having this argument. But it's too late now. The argument has already commenced. Can he redeem himself and get out unscathed?
I don't really care about it.
But what are the B, C's, and D? What you said
It cures
specific.
cancer.
Well,
is
there
one.
has been shown.
It helps with cancer about as much as
not-
turmeric and ginger. Those
well,
things
all
help
those
with cancer.
anti-inflammatory
yeah,
things.
I know, but it's not a prescription.
But CBD has been shown
With
to have
seizures.
tremendous benefits for cancer and non-psychoactive.
yeah, and certainly with seizures. I haven't.
We are now at the point where we are in a full-blown argument. Every response from Crowder since the argument started has been him putting another stake in the ground, further justifying Rogan's presence in this argument. We see that Rogan was the one that lured Steven into this argument by prying for information. However, now Steven is on the offensive and Rogan is merely giving rebuttals. He has lured Steven out of his cave and has now subconsciously persuaded him to take the offensive.
Zero
Yes.
problem with CBD being
Okay.
legalized. But my
Which is
issue
also cannabis.
I'll have to, I feel the need to call people out in bullshit when they say, well, the reason it's not is because of big pharmaceutical companies. I go, hold on a second. There's 7 patents on chemical compounds for marijuana right now.
Right.
The people who stand to make the most out of marijuana legalization are pharmaceutical companies. That's why they make.
That's not true.
Well, it is. If you look at the biggest supplement
No,
companies,
because
it's
you
owned by
can't-
the same pharmaceutical
But
companies.
you can't patent
and the
a
one
plant.
yes, you can.
As the conversation flows, take note on who interrupts who. Crowder gets interrupted while making his point, and we see his finger go up, not only to acknowledge Rogan's interruption, but to take back control. We are going to see that as soon as Rogan notices that Steven is getting comfortable on the offensive, Rogan goes to take back control.
Pharmaceutical
But you
companies.
can't patent
and the
a
one
plant.
That yes, you can. They've patented seven at
You can
least.
patent
Curtain,
strains that are
7
GMOs.
chemicals- No. 7 active chemical compounds in pot that have been patented as drugs. They've gone through the process.
Yeah,
There's
but you
one
can't
that's really
patent it
efficient.
to the point where you can't. Absolutely, people who have lobbied, as we talked about how the prison guard union
Yeah.
has lobbied to keep marijuana illegal. There's absolutely pharmaceutical companies have done the same thing. It was revealed in the WikiLeaks memos.
See, this is where I was saying
it
I
was.
don't
Hold
care
on,
about
don't
this.
interrupt me, you fuck. Where Hillary Clinton said that she's against marijuana and every.
Joe Rogan feels that he has dominion over this argument. Crowder interrupts him, which has been the cadence of this argument so far, both sides interrupting each other. And Joe Rogan tries to check Crowder for interrupting him by insulting him. Crowder laughs and doesn't retaliate, which, as we will see, only adds to the authority that Joe Rogan feels in this argument. Fast forward 30 seconds to them reviewing a news article about usage in Colorado.
Oh, he says he claims he's never had a
Colorado
drop.
topped $1 billion in legal marijuana sales in 2016.
Good.
Holla at Colorado.
Yeah. But another thing that we just wrote about, and again, people get mad with the weed issue.
Economics.
Well, no. Traffic fatalities regarding marijuana have skyrocketed.
Google that because that's nonsense.
No,
you
we
know,
wrote about it.
We see here another insight into the level of respect that Joe Rogan has for Crowder. He dismisses Crowder's argument before even knowing that it's false. Something you wouldn't do with someone whose opinion you respect.
No,
you
we
know,
wrote about it
drunk
a lot on
driving,
better.com.
drunk driving arrests have dropped. What do you mean you've? What, first of all,
No, I wrote about what the sources
first of
are, the
all,
original studies.
Just because someone gets in an accident and they're high,
See, here's-
because hold on, stop.
No, hold on a second. This is
you
because you just
interrupt
run-
way too much.
No, no,
You need to stop.
you talk in
hold on a
paragraphs.
second. No. I don't talk in
Go ahead.
paragraphs. I make full points.
We see Rogan and Crowder both make advances against each other's argument style. Both of them are justified. Yes, Crowder interrupts, but that has been the cadence of the entire argument so far. Both sides have been interrupting. And Rogan has been speaking in super long points, namely due to the authority he feels, which is stemming from his lack of respect for Crowder.
It could be.
But the statistical change is measurable.
well, what is
from
it?
pre and
You're
post.
talking about in Colorado.
In states where it's been decriminalized
Let's
or
go
legalized.
with Colorado. Pull it
So,
up,
hold on a
Jamie.
second, hold on a second. You just said, let me make my point. Again, my point is I don't care about it.
Yeah, you do.
No, I really don't.
You don't care about
no, here's the
people
thing.
dying?
You
You
get
son of a
you get
bitch.
so touched.
Steven tries to call back to the beginning of the argument to show that he doesn't care about it. But the thing is, he has chosen to argue for 4 minutes on it. Joe Rogan successfully lured him in the beginning, and now Steven has been putting stakes in the ground for the past 4 minutes. Steven is no longer justified in saying that he doesn't care, because the arguments he has been providing say otherwise. Joe Rogan notices this and says, yeah, you do.
Yeah, you do.
No, I really don't.
And he refers to Crowder's previous point of people driving after smoking and says, you don't care about people dying?
I don't.
You don't care about
No, here's
people
the thing,
dying?
What Rogan does next is super interesting. He disrespects Crowder by insulting him, but he does it indirectly by taking on the persona of a potential audience's reaction who hears that Crowder doesn't care about people dying. So he is able to insult Crowder in this way by quickly role-playing what the audience would say if they heard the news of Crowder doesn't care about people dying. This is another example of Rogan's lack of respect for Crowder.
And snuff it out.
No, there
and
are
the
some.
idea that the drug war will end.
Well, listen,
That's my only point. That's why I
scientific
wouldn't talk about
studies
it.
have proven that it shrinks tumors, that it helps people with cancer. Much like turmeric, much like any things that reduce inflation, including
Turmeric,
CBD
ginger,
oil.
tart cherry.
Right, but it's not necessarily
fighting
a
for those to be-
magical. They're all legal. The question is it beneficial and is it damaging?
It is. It does matter. The
What's
fact
damaging?
that you said no. Let me finish my point. It does matter. You said, what would you not talk about? I said, probably pot because I don't care. Well, what do you think
You
about
definitely
it? I said,
care. That's
this
why
is
you're
what I
arguing
think
with me
about
about it.
And your eyes
Lying-
light up, and all of
lying
a sudden,
bitch. You
where
care.
ideology and
You care
worldviews
like crazy.
shouldn't be discussed.
No, you
You're
care.
going to laser in like a tractor beam on the most important issue of the day that I said
Crowder recalls the beginning of the conversation before the argument started. But what he doesn't recall is him putting stakes in the ground and advocating for his position, because Rogan was able to get him to do it without him even noticing. Whether it was on purpose or because he was an inexperienced interviewee, he entered the argument after he could have denied both of Rogan's lures of one way or the other, and in what way, by not engaging in them. Rogan says, "You absolutely care," because Crowder didn't take the opportunity in the beginning to rebuke the argument and has been fully engaged in it for the past 5 minutes. This is where we see Rogan's respect for Crowder drop even more. Where Rogan previously insulted him indirectly, Rogan now insults him directly to his face.
your eyes
Lying-
light up, and all of a
lying
sudden,
bitch. If you're a free
smoke
market
pot.
guy, why wouldn't you be in support of something, whether it's the most
I just
beneficial
said I am.
or equally
I just said I
beneficial?
am.
But you're not necessarily, because
I
you're
am.
you're
But
denying.
because
you're
right now of the
denying-
chemical
Hold on,
compounds,
fuckface. You're
Well, watch
denying.
it. Come on. It's been a good
Come on,
conversation.
We're friends.
What we see next is super interesting because Crowder stands up for himself, but he does it without making an insult back. He's just trying to keep the energy neutral. Joe Rogan now has to navigate how to respond to Crowder. So he plays the card of, "Come on, we're just friends." However, we know this is just a canned response to keep the decency. Friends who insult each other have a back and forth. That's what makes it a friendship. But when you have insults coming from only one side for a prolonged period, that is what makes it disrespect.
Like you have him
Historic
bringing up,
lows.
you have him bringing up the source that you want to find.
Washington
Bring up the
Post.
study right there. Yeah, Washington Post. Bring up the study that we wrote. We wrote about it on our website.
Look, I don't care about your website, you fuck. Since marijuana.
Joe Rogan lets another insult slip, and we see him crack a slight smile. He knows that since Crowder tried to stand up for himself and neutralize the situation in the last insult, he is testing Crowder's boundaries and is realizing that he may have gone too far with this one, and that Crowder will likely go on the offensive to deal with being insulted.
Legalization, highway fatalities in Colorado.
Since you
are
called me
at
hold on a second.
near
Since you called me, hold on a second.
historic
Since you called me a
lows.
fucking puss, and you do this with the crazy lady at a
come
comedy
on.
club.
What Crowder does here is acknowledge Rogan's insult and provide proof as to why the insult is not originating from the reality that they are just friends, and is in fact originating from the lack of respect that Rogan has for him. He is able to put himself in the same category as the crazy lady at the comedy club. Joe Rogan dismisses this, but he doesn't really have a rebuttal other than, "Come on, I like you."
Buddy, I
You
like
think if
you
you scream enough that it makes a point? My point is, I don't care
don't
about
think
it.
that if we
Smoke
scream
up.
enough-
And you just said I was interrupting. You're interrupting now and
Listen,
screaming.
because
I don't
Jamie
care about it
put
enough.
up a post, and you're not.
But I don't buy-
Crowder again tries to call back to how he said he doesn't care about it, but it's not believable anymore. Joe Rogan was able to successfully lure him in the beginning, and once Crowder started putting stakes in the ground for his position, he can no longer be justified in his claim that he doesn't care.
Prescribing, no one's dishing out dispensaries for turmeric or ginger.
They
That's my
certainly
point.
are. If you go to these local juice shops,
Anyway.
you go to these juice shops, people are promoting
couldn't care
ginger
less
like
people want to
crazy,
smoke
turmeric
joints.
like crazy.
I
Go
couldn't care if
online.
couldn't care less people want to smoke joints.
You're an ideologue, buddy.
Really? That's an ideologue position by saying leave it to the states?
Yeah, you're locked in, man.
Really?
You're locked deep into this fucking
Locked
red
how so?
state thing, man.
Joe Rogan is able to take the win and say, "You're an ideologue, buddy." He lured Crowder in by asking him leading questions in order to reveal what his position was. And once Crowder's position was slightly revealed, Rogan pounced on it, which caused Crowder to start putting stakes in the ground and delve further into his position. Rogan was able to easily take this win because once once Crowder fell into his trap, Crowder could no longer say, I don't care about it, because Rogan and now the audience would respond, if you don't care about it, then why have you chosen to argue about it for the past 7 minutes? Joe Rogan was successfully able to lure Steven Crowder into an argument, but how did he do it so successfully that Crowder didn't even realize until it was too late? Before we get into an argument with someone, we need to notice the subconscious and indirect clues that we can use to get out of it. For example, in the beginning, Crowder could have used Rogan's lures to give himself a potential way out. Crowder said, I don't care about it, and Rogan said, one way or the other. Crowder could have said, yep, I don't care about it, but instead, he pursued it. Crowder began to say what he didn't like, and Rogan said, like how so? Crowder could have taken that opportunity to shut it down, but he didn't, whether knowingly or unknowingly. After Rogan subconsciously persuaded Crowder to put his stake in the ground and declare his position, it became a slippery slope. And once the argument started, there was no going back. Notice the patterns of speech and questions that people use in order to entice you into entering an argument. To avoid arguments, avoid putting stakes in the ground and sharing positions. There is no universe where you can just share your position on something and not have a potential argument come out of it. Remember to like and subscribe for more videos like this. Thank you guys so much for the support. My name is Glidden Rogan. Thank you for watching.